You're listening to the Crew Book Club podcast, the show that challenges you to change your mindset through hearing about dope books. Thanks for hanging with the crew to get advice, ask questions, and gain knowledge with me, your host, Sade Hill. What up, crew? What's good? Welcome to another episode of the Crew Book Club podcast. Let's get into it. I'm recording on a Sunday, which is very rare. But between 75 hard personal things that kind of surprised me this previous week, trying to nip things in the bud that I cannot necessarily control happening, I just have to fix it. And, you know, with real estate and all those things, I was about to pull my hair out. And I think it's, you know, if you've been listening to the pod or if you know me, I'm very schedule oriented. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. So when things get thrown into my ranch, that's by surprise or improper planning of others that can affect my schedule, that drives me up the wall. But you know, life happens and I'm dealing with it. So yeah, that kind of leads into how you feeling. I'm feeling happy to be here to do this podcast. And the other side of me wants to skip a week, be like, I done gave y'all 59 episodes straight. I'm okay to take time off. But then I get a comment under one of my YouTube videos saying, be consistent and you'll win. Or my pastor, when I went to talk to him about what I was, you know, just letting him know, one of his messages kind of catapulted me into the direction to believe in myself and pull this podcast off. And he tells me a story about consistency. And I'm like, okay, God, thank you. And then I get a fortune cookie that talks about consistency. And I'm like, okay, God, you know, I got the message. So I want to be consistent. The motivation is not here today, but the consistency is. And we talked about that before, about not being so focused on the motivation, because that could go away. It's just more so about being consistent. So that's what I'm doing. Okay. And how are you feeling? I hope and I trust that you're feeling good, feeling great. But if you are not, that is okay too. Your days are not always going to be perfect. Trust me, I know. Things are going to come up and things are going to happen. And even God says it in the Bible. Okay. He operates in when everything is good and when things are painful as well. We just have to find the blessing in it all, right? So we're going to get into this episode. And one of the things that definitely helped me is therapy. And being a realtor, it can be challenging not knowing where your next pay is coming from and all those type of things. And I really needed to get back into therapy. And bam. So what I'm saying to you, it's affordable, it's convenient. There's no excuse of why you should not be able to get assistance with your therapy. We can pay for everything else, but don't have the money to pay for therapy. You know, and I get it. These times are very difficult and very hard, and we got to find a way. You're trying to find a way to pinch pennies and make things work. What I'm reading from a book that we're going to do after we finish this one, not necessarily finding ways to pinch pennies, but finding ways to make more money. And same for me. When real estate is not producing as much as I'm used to it producing, that I can keep my same lifestyle and do more, I need to focus on how to think outside the box and make more money. And thank God that I have this relationship with BetterHelp, who's the sponsor of this episode. So in those difficult times that maybe I need to be aware of my costs, because unexpected costs have come along, that they've been able to help and assist. So don't you hesitate to reach out to BetterHelp. We have that partnership where you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy. And if you need additional assistance, you guys, please do not hesitate to ask. And I can clearly see why they're called BetterHelp. Okay, so that was my little spiel and my little transparent moment. Not little, and my transparent moment with you. So I need you to go and be transparent with your therapist. Okay. And let's get into one of the biggest things attached to the big thing before therapy, before anybody can help, is God. Oh, he's sure be checking. All right, so let's get into our first segment of the show. Who gonna check me, boo? God is, and he is always checking us because we deserve a good check. You hear me? Okay, so Acts 20:24 was one of those scriptures like, before I even explain it, I want you to listen to it. However, I consider my life worth nothing to me. My only aim is to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me, the task of testifying to the good news of God's grace. I don't know how many times I've said it, my life is not my life. It's completely not. It's like when I first read it, I was like, okay, worthy. I consider my life worthy nothing to me. And I want you to think like, well, why would God want me to consider my life not worthy? And it's just like, no. If you're in search of everything else and trying to figure out your worth and all of that, remember, your purpose and your goal in life is to only aim to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given you. Not what society has given you, not what your mama, sister, daddy, cousin, auntie, uncle has given you, not what your professor, I don't care if you talk to Oprah or Michelle Obama, heck, the president. You need to focus on what tasks Jesus has for you and complete those. Everything else gonna come. The money, all that is going to come because you're the heir of the kingdom. We are heirs of his kingdom. And if you're doing his task, he's going to orchestrate for you to have the life that you're working so hard for and that he knows you deserve. So yeah, this was definitely confirming to me. And then the specific task of testifying to the good news of God's grace is being the disciple and basing, when people see you, they see God. Like, you ain't even got to announce. You can just walk in a room and they could be like, ooh, it's something different about her. Okay? So allow God to lead you into your purpose. And when you're concerned about quote unquote purpose and what society says that should look like, let's focus on the task that the Lord Jesus has for you. Okay? All right. And it just come into mind, and this was just downloaded into me. If you're concerned about what that task is, get into your word, get into the Bible, read the Bible and pray and focus on building a relationship with Christ. Because let me tell you something. You know that saying, oh, God know my heart. God know my heart. He actually does know your heart. He knows when you BSing him and trying to get something out of him and not being genuine about building a relationship with him. Okay? So don't think you could just go to him for 2 days, pray to him, and he's supposed to just voila. Like, a relationship takes time in cultivating so you can get clarity on what you need to be doing. I just wanted to say that last point about that. All right? So that's who gonna check me, boo? God is, and he is always checking us. Let's get into our book, The One Thing. Yes, and we're on chapter 8, A Balanced Life, and chapter 9, Big is Bad. And this, I think these are the last of part, it's the last of part 1 about the lies they mislead and derail us. Okay, so these are lies. A balanced life, that's a lie. And also, big is bad. And when I think of the balance life, I think of people like, oh, there's a work-life balance. Like, no, it's not. How you feel and what you do at work affects when you come home. It's not like you can take that stuff off and leave it at the door. It affects you. And what affects you at home could cause you to call out of work, which affects your work. Because when you get back, that stuff that was needing to be done still waiting for you. So that whole balanced life is a lie. the thing about this chapter is going to help us understand it better. So let's turn to page 72, and it says, a balanced life, quotes, is a myth. It is a lie. The act of living a full life by giving time to what matter is a balancing act. Extraordinary results require focused attention and time. Time on one thing means time away from another. This makes balance impossible. No matter how much you say you're balancing, it's impossible to do exactly two things at once to get extraordinary results. And I'm not saying that you can't do multiple things. I'm just saying you got to do one thing with full focus. And what did it say? It has to be focused attention and time on one particular thing, okay, to make it work. I wanted to read this above what I just read on page 73. We hear about balance so much, we automatically assume it's exactly what we should be seeking. Y'all, it's not. The things we should be seeking is, it says, purpose, meaning, significance. These are what makes a successful life, not the balanced life, okay? So instead of focus on the balance, let's focus on the purpose, the meaning, and the significance of what you're doing to make your life successful. Ooh, that was so good. Okay. Even on page 75, it goes into talking about middle mismanagement. It says here, the desire of balance makes sense, right? This calm is so real that we just know it's the way life has meant to be, but it's not. That's what they sell us. Oh, you should have a work-life balance, or oh, you need more balance in your schedule. Like, no, let's talk about it. It says here on page 75, if you think of balance as the middle, then out of balance is when you're away from it. The problem with living in the middle is that it prevents you from making extraordinary time commitments to anything. And your effort to attend to all things, everything gets shortchanged and nothing gets its due. Yeah. You start penny pinching your time towards something. And honestly, if you think about how quick are you in the creative space? I know, like, for me, sometimes if I'm in my think tank or if I'm having a moment or a vision comes, it could come like this, but then I want to spend some time on it and I can't just turn it off because I want to get to the next thing. Or it may be like, okay, I need to work on writing my book and I'm kind of stuck having writer's block, but I could take the time, sit back, and it could take me 10 minutes foddling around, looking at stories and things to inspire me to get going. And then by the time I get going, I'm like, oh, wait, but I want to do something else. And then you cut it off and then you go back to it thinking that you're going to remember it and it's going to have the same feeling, and then it don't. Okay? So, and I know that you might think that contradicts what we've talked about in the past. Like, oh, just do something for 10 minutes, yada, yada, yada. No, it doesn't. Because when you think of just doing something for 10 minutes, that's just make the commitment to say that you did it. It's a difference from getting into the groove and not being in the groove because you didn't give time for it. Okay? So that's the difference, all right? Okay, so let's turn to page 82, and that's the last. There's a lot of juice in these, but I be trying to like hit the tight pinpoints that significantly hit me. So that's why I recommend ordering the book. The link is in the show notes to do that as well. Or you can listen to it on Audible, which we have a partnership with them. That link is in the show notes too. You can get free 30 days of premium access to comedy. Oh, they have wellness things. They have way more than just audiobooks. So definitely check that out, okay? And follow along as we read. So on page 82, life is a balancing act. The question of balance is really a question of priority. When you change your language from balancing to prioritizing, you see your choices more clearly and open the door to changing your destiny. When you act on your priority, you'll automatically go out of balance, giving more time to one thing over another. The challenge becomes how long you stay on your priority. Ooh. To be able to address your priorities outside of work, be clear about your most important work priority so you get it done. Then go home and be clear about your priorities there so you can get back to work. Remember, I just talked about that. Having the balance of work and life. You have to prioritize what's important so you can get the extraordinary results and not just trying to do every little thing. Because that we talked about on last episode 59. Being a disciplined person, no one's 100% disciplined. They're just doing the important things that they need to be disciplined in the right habits. Okay? So, best advice on page 82. When you're supposed to be working, work. And when you're supposed to be playing, play. Okay? So that was chapter 8 of Balanced Life and how much that is a lie. And these are ways to figure out how to not just be in the middle so you can get extraordinary results. All right? So let's get into chapter 19. I was about to say chapter 19. Let's get into chapter 9. Big is bad. Oh, I don't know. Well, I know the psychological thing that has to go with going big and doing big, because people can say they want to do big things but be very timid to do big things, and when presented the opportunity to do big things, people tend to sabotage the opportunities or run away. And crew, we're not going to be doing that. We're not going to be sabotaging. We're not going to be getting scared, getting our panties in a bunch and running away. What my grandma call it? Hightailing. We're not going to be hightailing. You hear me? Okay. Chapter 9, big is bad. Okay? On page 85, it says, big and bad are no more tied together than small and good. Big is bad is a lie. It's quite possible the worst lie of all. For if you fear big success, you're either avoid it or sabotage your efforts to achieve it. Who's afraid of the big, bad, big? Place big and results in the same room, and a lot of people bulk or walk. Okay? For some reason, there is the fear that big success brings crushing pressure and stress, that the pursuit of it robs them not only time with family and friends, but eventually their health. I was that person who excused the big thing because I want to be like, oh, I want it to be home with my child. I want to make sure I'm putting my family first. And I was using that as an excuse to sabotage the work that I needed to do, right? Instead of thinking how chapter 8 says it, when I'm supposed to be working, work, and when I'm supposed to be playing, play. Okay? So, also it says on page 85, all of this reinforces a disease with the very idea of big to invent a word called megaphobia, the irrational fear of big. When we connect big with bad, we trigger shrinking thinking, and lowering our trajectories feels safe. Oh, have you guys ever been there where an opportunity presented itself so well, but you talked yourself out of doing it because you fear being big and successful? Because you got intimidated by the work, or you got intimidated by the what if? Okay. I remember a time where I got intimidated by the what if, and it was a great opportunity handed in my hand, and I didn't take advantage of it because I was like, what kind of mom would I be? My daughter depend on me, I'm not going to be able to travel, move to San Francisco and work with the CEO at a clothing company. And he literally was like, I need you to work with me, because the fact that you thought to sweep up dust with the Swiffer wipe and everybody was over here panicking and you just went to work. He said, I need someone like you who thinks outside the box. And I will never forget that. And I think like, darn, if I would have took that opportunity, where could I have gone? Probably right here back with y'all. Y'all know God tend to put you right back on track. But I just think about that time, like, why didn't I? What's the worst that could have happened? You know what I'm saying? So anywho, it talks about being flat wrong on page 86. None of us knows our limit. We don't. No one knows their ultimate ceiling for achievement. So worrying about it is a waste of time. Yeah, I can think how many times I've wasted on the what if this happened? What if this don't happen? Or, oh, prime example, I was at the office and I had someone very intimidated about calling a for sale by owner. And we were both trying to, make calls and get outside our comfort zone. And I had made probably like 5 or 6 calls. And I was looking at them. I'm like, you gonna make some calls? Ain't no way you gonna be around me and you're not gonna make a call. And so they were so nervous and try to over research. I'm like, just make the call. And so they end up making a call, and guess what? They booked the appointment. And I thought about that right now. Like, how many phone calls and appointments could they have booked if they didn't waste so much time worrying about the what if of it all? Okay? So think about that and how much time you're wasting instead of just doing it. Keller Williams has this, I remember getting this journal and let me go grab it. When I first joined this brokerage, they gave me a journal and it said, fail often, fail fast, fail forward. So let's be quick to fail. What's the worst that can happen? You succeed or you learn from it, all right? To get better. But if you don't do either, you stay stuck. Who wants to do that? You can't be a part of the crew and want to stay stuck. It's just not going to happen. Okay? So let's look at page 87 of chapter 9, Big is Bad. Going big. It says thinking big is essential to extraordinary results. We cannot expect extraordinary results and we don't even think we can do it. Okay? The only action that becomes springboards to succeeding big are those informed by thinking to begin with. So big thinking is the start. So you're a big thinker now. All right. So let's now act big so we can succeed big. On page 88, it says, what you do is determined by what you think. How big you think becomes a launching pad for how high you achieve. Okay? Every level of achievement requires its own combination of what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with, the crew. Okay? The trouble is that the combination of what, how, and who gets you to one level of success won't naturally evolve to a better combination that leads to the next level of success. So sometimes we got to switch it up. Who and what in systems was in place that got you to here is not going to be the same things that's going to get you to the next level. And I'm preaching to myself because I was able to get myself to this position. Now I'm realizing I need a team to get me to the next level so I can scale my business and podcasting, okay? And my brand as the host of the Crew Book Club podcast. Hey. Okay, back to the book, page 88. It says, doing something one way doesn't always lay the foundation of doing something better, nor does a relationship with one person automatically set the stage for a more successful relationship with another. Okay, if you learn to do something one way and with one set of relationships, that may work fine until you want to achieve more. It's then that you'll discover you've created an artificial ceiling of achievement for yourself that may be too hard to break through. In effect, you've boxed yourself in when there is simply a way to avoid it. Think as big as you possibly can and base what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with on succeeding at that level. Okay? So when you limit yourself to your traditional surroundings, you are blocking yourself and putting a ceiling on the possibilities of doing and achieving more. Okay? Don't get so bogged down by how and what and who you're doing things with because you want to be quote unquote loyal. If they get offended that you're trying to find a way to scale, they're not loyal. Or maybe they should be figuring out how to help you scale more or putting themselves in positions to learn more on how to help you. Okay? That's my thought process on that. Here it says on page 89 as well, what you build today will either empower or restrict you tomorrow. So don't get just stuck on what you're doing today. Okay? Let's focus on, okay, we got this done today. All right, what are some habits and things that I can put in place to get me prepared and ready for tomorrow? Don't be Blockbuster to Netflix when the opportunity presents itself. Okay? Think about that. All right? So on page 91, it says, big goals can seem unattainable at first. Y'all, it can be intimidating. Trust me. I hosted my first meet and greet and then my first mastermind back to back in the last quarter, November, first week of November, then the first week of December. I was pulling my hair out between October and December after the mastermind. But I can tell you, they both went amazing and they both empowered me to want to do more. So when I'm reading this, it hits home. It hits home a lot more. So it says, as I continue on page 91, yet many times have you set out to do something that seemed like a real stretch at the time, only to discover it was much easier than you thought. Sometimes things are easier when we imagine, and truthfully, some things there are a little bit harder, and that's okay. That's when it's important to realize that on the journey to achieving big, you get better. Big requires growth, and by the time you arrive, you're big too. As you experience big, you become big. But if you're not experiencing big at all, you're staying right where you're at and you're staying small. And it's nobody's fault but yours. Okay? So I need you to go B.I.G. You hear me? On page 92, it talks about blowing up your life. This is the last section of chapter 9, blowing up your life. Big stands for greatness, extraordinary results. Pursue a big life and you're pursuing the greatest life you can possibly live. You must be open to the possibility that your life and what you accomplish can become great. Okay? You got to be open to it. Okay? Don't fear big, y'all. Don't. Okay? Don't fear mediocrity. Okay? Fear waste. Those are the things you should be fearing. It also says here, fear the lack of living to your fullest. Like, why would you want to lack your life? Don't lack your life. Live to the highest and fullest potential, okay? And don't let your fear get in the way. It says here, when we fear big, we either consciously or subconsciously work against it. We either run toward lesser outcomes and opportunities, or we simply run away from the big ones, okay? Only living big will let you experience your true life and work potential. Listen, I like this quote on the last page of chapter 9. It says, people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Now, that is what I want you to do. I want you to have, what Pastor Todd say? Crazy faith. Okay, I want you to have crazy faith in yourself. All right? So, those were chapter 8 and 9. And I love it. One of the songs that come to my mind, doing it way big. Oh, I can't think of the song. I'm going to think of it and tell you the name. Okay, so that is, oh, wait, I'm tripping, y'all. I tell y'all, okay, let me get it together. Page 82 is going to be your challenge of the week. Okay, remember we talked about life is a balancing act. So this week, I want you to treat your week as being on a tightrope. The thing is, when you're on a tightrope, you have to focus. If you ever watch somebody do the tightrope, they're very focused. And they're focused on one specific point, right? And what I want you to do is, when you're working, I want you to be working. And I want you to envision your work time as being on the tightrope to the task that needs to be completed in that moment. Okay? And if you're at home, spending time with your family or playing, I want you to be on the tightrope so that way you're focused on that of play and focus on that with your kids, and you're not dipping and dabbing between work and home, okay? So that's going to take some time management, all right? That's going to take some putting on the timer, turning the phone on do not disturb, okay? All right, that's going to take some planning, and that's where a lot of people they lack planning. They say they want to do things, but when the time comes to do it, they don't have a plan of action, and then they waste time coming up with a plan of action in that moment. And then the time is flown by and you couldn't even get in the groove because you just put the plan together. All right? So I want you to get on a tightrope and be focused this week. All right? Now, what would the crew do? Ooh, we finally Let me stop. I got an email. This wasn't a DM. This was actually emailed to the crewbookclub@gmail.com. You can DM on our IG at the Crew Book Club to ask your questions. And this one had a nice little paragraph. I'm gonna read it right now. It said, I reached out a while back when I was having issues with my friends after working together. I moved up and they started treating me differently. Oh, I remember this. We did figure out our relationship, but now I'm in a position I need advice on what to do now that my pay isn't reflecting the extra work that I am doing. I'm nervous to bring it up because I don't want to ruffle my boss's feathers and possibly lose my job. I'm hoping you can give me some advice on what to do. Oh, okay. So your friends that were your coworkers, y'all are now friends, or y'all got an understanding. Well, that's good. Communicating. I'm happy that all worked out, and hopefully they're treating you with respect as your boss, as you being their boss. Okay, now when it comes to, I'm a strong believer to not be doing extra work that I'm not getting paid for. You gotta open your mouth. Hearing her talk about her being the experienced one and speaking up when she needed to about her worth and her brand. And I thought that was really cool. Now, don't be doing extra work and ain't getting paid. I understand you concerned about your maybe losing your job. But also, if that's not in the scope of your contract and they let you go, that's possibly a lawsuit. And if you're doing work, especially if it's off hours, that's not legal either. And I don't want to come off as if, girl, you do entrepreneurship full time, you don't understand corporate. But I have worked in corporate, and there was times where I found out how much people were getting paid and it didn't reflect my salary, and I asked for an increase. And I remember when I got pregnant with my daughter and they wanted to give me a certain pay, I said, no, I'll work for this. And I'm only working Monday through Friday from 8 to 2. And I got a call back. I didn't ask. I just told them. I got a call back and they were like, we agreed to that. And ever since that moment, I've always went in asking for what I wanted. But I also knew my worth. I proved myself, because one thing about it is, if you're doing your job to a certain level and people see that and value that, and if you don't see it and value it, they will take advantage of you. So you have to speak up. And if they value you and respect you, they will either increase your pay or delegate the tasks to someone else. Maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, but I'm not finna be stressed out at a job that's one, not paying me, and you got me doing 3 people jobs because of my fear of you making me lose a job. Like, I don't get with that. But I'm also the person who I don't know. I pray about it first before you go on there telling these people off. Pray about it. Ask God what he wants you to do and do that. That's my advice. Because, girl, you don't take my advice and then you be out of a job. Because I'm going to tell you, well, if they ain't value and take care of you, then that wasn't a job for you anyway. That's just my thought process. But I also can't count your pockets. I know you have an obligation. I honestly think if having a conversation is important and speaking up, and then document it. After you have the meeting, or once you invite them or have a conversation, put it in an email, baby. Be like, just as we have spoken on January 26th, we discussed me not receiving proper income for these particular, because this is out the scope of my work, yada, yada, yada. I look forward to our meeting on this day, to discuss. You go to the meeting, you discuss your points. Make sure before you go to that meeting, you know how much you want to be valued for those additional tasks and how much pay, so you can negotiate your pay. And then be quiet and let them respond. When you leave the meeting, go back and reiterate what you talked about in the meeting, what they agreed to or not, or whatever the outcome, whether it was after speaking about these particular tasks and this is how much I was looking for. You all said that you will have an answer for me within in a week. Make sure, I would do a Google invite, whatever about that. when that day comes, they're supposed to have answers for you. If you don't get an answer first thing the next morning, hello, prior to our last email and meeting, it was said I will have an answer by da-da-da-da-da. Can I get an update? That way, you're tracking all communication. So if anything was to happen, you will have documentation. So that would be my advice this week. Hopefully it helps. I try to give you realistic, spiritual, and professional advice all at the same darn time, girl. Hopefully that helps you. Good luck with that. Yeah, keep us posted too. Okay? Well, we can't end this episode, y'all, without the quote of the week. Hey, the quote of the week. The quote of the week comes from page 94. It says, "Don't let small thinking cut our life down to size. Think big, aim high, and act bold. And see just how big you can blow up your life." Okay? And the words of the great Lil' Kim, anything we do, we doing it way big. Anything we do with B.I.G. Every move we make is always B.I.G. Hey! All right, crew. Y'all better go out and make them real big B.I.G. moves. Big energy. All right, I will see y'all right here next week on the Crew Book Club podcast. Bye. Or no, see you later. Want to be a part of the crew? Hit that follow button so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I would appreciate you showing crew love by rating the show on iTunes and Spotify. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share and tell a friend so your whole crew can be growing with you. Let me be the first to tell you, welcome to the crew.